So now that you've set up your PA, it's time to do a sound check. We're going to set the volume levels and EQ. Let's get started. Each input into your PA is known as a channel, and you'll see that each channel has a strip where you can adjust volume levels, you can adjust the highs and lows, you can adjust reverb as well. Now, you should try to be very consistent on where you put each of your inputs. In other words, your computer should always go in the tape in, and your microphone into channel 1, and instruments into channel 2 and 3 respectively. This way you have consistent placement and you don't have to hunt for different channels while making volume adjustments during a show. On the XR800, I like to use channels 9, 8, and 7, and so forth, because they're closest to where I'm performing and easiest to reach. Once you've identified the channels you want to use, you may want to label them, and you can simply use a piece of masking tape and a magic marker to identify them on the XR800, whereas the Stage Pass comes with their channels pre-labeled. Now, the first thing to do to actually begin your sound check is turn down all the volume levels on the board. On your Stage Pass, just rotate all the volume level knobs to the far left. And once your sliders are all down, including what's called your main sliders here, and your channel sliders over here, then you can turn your PA on. So go ahead and reach behind and turn the mixer on. You'll find the on button on the XR800 here, and on the Stage Pass right here. Now you can turn up your main volume with these two sliders here on the XR800. You'll see next to the sliders numbers, and you want to raise the main volume up to 0. On simpler mixers such as the Stage Pass, the main volume is also called the master volume, and then each channel strip has its own volume. In all model PAs, this main or master volume control is used to raise and lower the volume of all the channels simultaneously. Next, make sure your microphone is on. It's important here to also note that your computer has a volume out on it as well. You'll find that in the upper right-hand corner of your computer's desktop. You want to make sure that this volume out of your computer or iPod is set to 75 to 80%. Now raise the volume level sound coming from your computer on your mixer by pushing up the appropriate channel slider. Of course, the volume level will vary according to the size room and audience that you'll be performing for. Once the computer sound in is up and at a comfortable volume, you'll raise the microphone volume by pushing up the slider that corresponds to the microphone's input. Now, this is when you should start walking about the room and listening carefully. I like to go to a particular song or selection where I know I'll be singing, and then begin singing and make sure that you can hear your voice and that it's in balance with the computer's sound output. Now repeat this process with any other musical instruments and other channels that you may be using to accompany your voice. Once you've completed the process of setting the volume, now it's time to adjust the EQ. You'll see here in each channel strip, there are knobs to adjust low, high, and mids in the case of the XR800. In the XR800, there's also a 9-band EQ that adjusts the EQ across the board for all channels. Start your keynote presentation again and listen to the volume of the opening introduction. You can tell whether the bass is too high by listening to hear a woofy, deep throbbing sound. You want to avoid this deep bass sound when you're in gyms or in particularly echoey rooms. It makes it much harder for people to understand you. So you'll lower the bass if that seems a little too loud. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you hear a tinny sound and it sounds very thin, then you'll need to lower your treble. Here's some samples. This is the sound of a particularly bassy EQ mix. Notice how much better it sounds once we lower the bass. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you hear a tinny sound and it sounds very thin, then you'll need to lower your treble. And see how much clearer it sounds once we lower the trebles. Now each room's acoustics varies according to its size and shape, so you'll have to make adjustments in your EQ for each performance. Now once you've made all of your adjustments in volume and EQ, it's a great idea to go and ask your on-site performance coordinator to help you. During the show, if they can be present, ask them to use signals to turn the volume up or down. Don't hesitate to ask the audience as well. Oftentimes during shows, it's important to see if the audience can understand you. There's nothing worse than finding out after a performance that no one has understood a word you said. The more you go through this process, the more comfortable you become, and eventually it will become second nature. Sound check tips. Buy a 500-watt system in case you should need it for a large venue. Try out your sound system many times before your first performance. You'll want to become familiar with all of the adjustments you'll need to make during a show. During setup, rotate your main speakers in towards your performance space to avoid having to use monitors. Walk around the performance space while setting your volume and EQ. Ask your on-site coordinator to monitor volume levels during the show by using hand signals. Don't hesitate asking the audience if they can hear you or if the sound is too loud.